Good morning. That's a bright color. That's good.
Springy.
Springy.
Trying to be springy.
There you go. Okay, thank you for joining us today for the 22nd meeting of the Board of Lake County Commissioners. Would all those who are willing and able please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Grant us, O Lord, light to our understanding, prudence in our investigating, foresight in our planning, sincerity in our deliberating, the grace to follow truth in our judgment. Help us to be moved in our decision, neither by fear nor by self-interest, and to do our work faithfully. May we respect the authority vested in us, for thou art the source of all authority, and may we use in our directives for the common good and for thy honor and glory. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Present.
Commissioner Young?
Here.
Commissioner Hammercheck?
Here. Okay, public comments. Do we have anyone in the audience wishing to address the board at this time? Okay, no takers. Jason Boyd, County Administrator, do we have any electronic submissions of public comments? Thank you, sir.
And Mr. Boyd, before, could you briefly reintroduce to any public watching how they would submit an electronic comment? Yes.
There we go. Yes, Commissioners, I do have one public comment today, but and we have and you put me on the spot, Commissioner Plechnik. We have an email address specifically addressed, I believe. Kathy, do you remember what it is? It's in our Wednesday public notice that we put in the newspaper and online, and individuals who are wishing to submit a public comment, it can be sent to all one word, Commissioners Public Comments at lakecountyohio.gov. So those come directly to me, specific for the regularly scheduled Board of Commissioners meeting. So thank you. Thank you. Without objection, I'll go ahead with the public comment.
Please, sir.
Public comment submitted by Brian Massey, lobbyist for Citizens. There are several citizens that would like to take a tour of the Lake County Jail so that they can see for themselves the condition of the jail. Can the Commissioners organize a tour for those citizens that would like to participate? Thank you, Brian Massey. End the comment.
Thank you. Sheriff, did you want to address that directly, sir? Thank you. Sheriff Liam Bruno.
No, thank you.
You fooled me.
That was priceless.
We do jail tours. We have historically. Anybody that wants to come in for a jail tour, we take them through. We're not doing tours right now. During COVID, we eliminated all outside visiting. We eliminated visiting for the inmates as well as inmate programming. So we're slowly bringing the jail back up. So currently we're not doing any outside people coming in just till we get a good hold of that environment. But we plan to open up visiting here shortly. So when we do, I'll certainly put that on our website and on our Facebook, and people are welcome to come in and see that.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Okay, Jason, were there any others, or was that the sum total? Very good. Thank you, sir. Okay, Madam Clerk, moving on to resolutions, please.
In the Engineers Department, resolution acknowledging that no bids were received on May 26, 2021, approving the revised engineer's estimate of costs, and authorizing re-advertising for bids for the Morley, Prouty, and Pine Hill Roads Traffic Signal Upgrade Project, OPWC number DGX07, LCE project number 2019-23, bid opening June 23, 2021.
Second.
Discussion. Engineer, anything you want to add to that?
Really no, Commissioner. We've basically it was due to material availability and material costs that it was unforeseen.
Sure.
So we revised our estimate and revised our plans accordingly, and hopefully we should be able to get some good bids on the 23rd.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck?
Yes.
In the Utilities Department, resolution increasing appropriations and transferring cash within the Lake County Department of Utilities Water Operating Fund and Project Fund 595, Division Bank, Atwater Waterline Project 446W.
Move to approve?
Discussion? None. Anything you want to add or no? No? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck?
Yes.
Resolution increasing appropriations and transferring cash within Lake County Department of Utilities Water Operating Fund and Project Fund 595, Vine Street Waterline, Willowick Drive to State Route 91 Project 447W.
Move
to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck?
Yes.
Resolution increasing appropriations and transferring cash within Lake County Department of Utilities Water Operating Fund and Project Fund 595, Lakeshore Boulevard Waterline East 288th to Seabourn Project 448W.
Move to approve?
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck?
Yes.
Resolution approving plans, specifications, and estimates of cost in the amount of $565,460.40 for Bellflower Area Sanitary Sewer Improvement, St. James Relief Project Number 403S, and advertising for bids for same, bid opening June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Discussion? Randy, did you want to give a little background on that one?
Sure. This is a sanitary sewer rehabilitation project and also a relief sewer to add capacity to the area around Bellflower Avenue in the city of Mentor. We did receive a combination of about $500,000 in grants and loans from OPWC for this project also.
Very good. Thank you, sir. If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck?
Yes.
In Job and Family Services, resolution approving Lake County Department of Job and Family Services vouchers, date of warrant June 11th, 2021, in the amount of $100,136.46.
Move to approve?
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck?
Yes.
In the Finance Department, resolution approving payment of bills as listed on the Commissioner's payment. Let me try that one more time. Resolution approving payment of bills as listed on the Commissioner's Approval Journal in the amount of $714,126.06.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck?
Yes.
Resolution approving purchase orders as listed on the Commissioner's Purchase Order Approval Journal in the amount of $1,328,380.80.
Move to approve?
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck?
Yes.
Resolution increasing appropriations for various non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck?
Yes.
Resolution transferring an appropriation within non-general fund account.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck?
Yes. This brings us to our departmental reports portion of our meeting. Utilities. Randy?
Thank you, Commissioner. On Saturday, we will be hosting our first household hazardous waste collection at the fairgrounds. It begins at 8 o'clock in the morning and goes till 2 o'clock. Information about what can be dropped off can be found on our website.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Okay, Job and Family Services. Suzanne. And it's official. Your nameplate's there, so you have to stay now.
Thank you. It is official. I have 2 full days as the Director of Job and Family Services under my belt. Things are going pretty well. No additional report at this time.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. And it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
County Administrator Jason Boyd.
Thanks, Commissioners. I also echo the Commissioners' comments. Want to welcome Suzanne to the team. We've been working together the past 5 or 6 months, but in your full capacity. Just want to welcome you and look forward to helping you in any way you need. So, Commissioners, just my fairly short COVID reports, which is good news the past month or so. Once again, Lake County in the data this week, we're at about 53% vaccination rates, 52.8. I like to round up, especially when it's in our favor. That puts us really first and second between Lake, Delaware County, just north of Columbus. Geauga's doing quite well. Really, everyone's doing pretty well. So keep up the good work, everyone. Lake County is open for business. The county building is open. Our offices are open. We're here to help our consumers, our businesses, and residents in any manner that they see fit. And just to conclude, with spring here, flowers blooming, I just want to give an attaboy and attagirl to our buildings and grounds facilities. I don't know if you take a walk down Park Place and look at the courthouses and the county building and just how pretty they look this time of year. Thanks to all the guys and gals who are keeping our buildings in tip-top shape. Thank you.
And if I could just add to your COVID report, just a reminder, the health district, we will be losing the state-funded nurses. So probably in our new business, we should discuss some financial assistance to the health district. Also, I think it's fair to say that the health district continues to work very hard to get out to our hard-to-reach parts of our community. They're making a concerted effort, so that's to their credit and to the betterment of our county in general.
Yeah, and those particular types of expenses would be eligible for our ARP, American Recovery Plan funds that the county is currently looking into. So thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. President?
Sir.
If I could just add, I think it's important to restate what our county administrator just said. Lake County is open for business, and a big part of that comes from the hard work of the General Health District. Whether you're still trying to get a vaccination, I know that our Health District and our Health Commissioner, Ron Graham, are working on home visits at this point, or you're dealing with a business or a public entity that isn't recognizing mask exemptions. I have seen such help come from the General Health District. I really want residents to know that it is a resource. It's there to serve them and reinforce local control as we strongly and safely reopen. So I really want people to know that Ron Graham and the General Health District are there to serve them, that they have done an outstanding job, and the commissioners are always happy to help, but more often than not, we're just taking the credit for what Ron Graham is doing. We're redirecting them to him and his hardworking staff, so I just wanted to give that shout out. We're open for business in no small part because of their work.
Thanks.
Well said, sir. Commissioner Young?
I had a question.
Your microphone, sir.
I know this is all public, but just for the sake of anyone who might be listening, Brian, I hope you're listening. No. The infection rates, how have they been tracking, along with the...
I don't have the infection rates in front of me. I know our cases per week continue to decline. The Lake County COVID cases this week are as low as they have been since mid to late last year. And when I say that, this the October timeframe before we saw that Halloween, Thanksgiving spike that took us in through the first of the year. But our weekly trend continues to be on the decline as far as COVID positives. I can't speak to the infection rate right off the top of my head.
You know what the comparisons are with the rest of the state in that category at this point?
I've been focusing on kind of our Northeast Ohio region, and we're all on the positive downhill slide. So it's a good thing. Hospitalizations, Joe Busher sends out, they're now weekly or maybe twice a week, the state EMA dashboard reports. Ventilators in use is down, hospitalizations are down. There's 3 or 4 metrics that are all very, very welcome news to me and probably everybody on the face of the earth. So, but yeah, so we're in a good spot.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Madam Clerk.
Well, just that our meeting will be Thursday, June 10th at 10 o'clock, and Jennifer will be back for that.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Legal.
No reports, Commissioner.
Thank you, sir. Old business. Do we have any old business to come before the board? Okay. Do we have new business? I I've got a couple. One of the questions, since we're open back up again, we're allowing people into full meetings. Regarding public comments, electronic submissions, do we wish to continue to receive those and read them into the record? Do we want to just do what we had historically done, where we'd obviously accept emails and then forward them on to our clerk to sort and route them accordingly? Do we want to start to head back towards the more normal? How do we, I'm just kind of curious as to what the pleasure of the board would be. Do we want to keep taking the public records electronically and reading them in, or do we want to start settling back in and focusing on more the in-person? Okay, with that rousing discussion.
I'm open to that either way. I question whether we want to permanently change our procedures based upon an experience from a crisis, without weighing the pros and cons in more depth, but I'm open either way.
Fair enough.
Mr. President, what I care about the most is just making sure that these meetings continue to both be open to the public and stream, because some folks are able to be here in person, some folks aren't. That goes beyond any crisis or pandemic. It's not always possible for a resident to be here in person, and having that video to be able to watch it live or after the fact, I think is really important.
And I believe that was one of the goals that we had when we constructed the new building, was to be able to do what we're doing now. So to the best of my knowledge, there's no recommendations from staff to not do that. Jason, you had a comment? Jason Boyd, County Administrator.
Yeah, to Commissioner Young's kind of vantage point, depending on which direction the board goes, I don't want to dismiss that we wouldn't take public comments, written via, traditional mail or email. We have done that in the past, at least my 9 or 10 years. I just think the difference would be me reading them into the record on a basis like we did during COVID. So we have in the past. I would recommend that we would continue to take, those comments, and then those would just be submitted to the clerk for part of the record, if that's the path you guys choose to take.
And I'm just thinking long range, obviously we're very responsive. We've got 2 public portions. If I were to offer a caution, I'd be concerned and this has not happened, but if we started to get repetitive or redundant emails, if we had to sort those on the fly. I know we've kind of kept things open. Legal, is that a reasonable concern of, repetitive and redundant comments and questions?
That's a situation the board would have to deal with on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, public comment is not required by Open Meetings Act, so it's really a decision of the board on that particular issue.
Fair enough.
We probably always want to get the email with some kind of contact information on the individual, just as we do here in our face-to-face meetings. They stand up, they give their name, where they live, etc. Sometimes some of our submissions haven't included all that for public comment during the COVID crisis.
I agree with that. I think Commissioner, in his comments a couple meetings ago, the President made that notation that email correspondence shall include a name and an address, similar to folks being here. I think we're President, if I'm...
No, you're stating it spot on.
Okay.
Is it reasonable then if we just memorialize things? Again, it's great when people, if there's some matter of urgency, as legal said, on a case-by-case basis, but it can be a little challenging sometimes getting some submissions on the fly. And again, we're trying to tighten things up. In the interest of efficiency, Madam Clerk, would that be reasonable to kind of go back to what we've been doing and documenting stuff? Terrific. Thanks. So if that's acceptable, pleasure of the board. Jason, makes your life easier. You don't have to be doing story time.
Would this be submissions then into the record that we're discussing here? The email or...
I wouldn't say necessarily, because sometimes people just send us stuff for information, but if somebody expressly said, hey, for your record or for your consideration, that type of language, I'm kind of looking to legal on that one. Because sometimes people just send us a casual, hey, just for your information.
Yes. And I think it's a discretionary thing for the board to take a look at whatever. If it is a public comment, yes, submit it into the record.
And I would also be reluctant to be putting 40-page dissertations into the, that could be a little challenging.
Right.
As our clerk is like, yeah, I don't want to have to retype all that.
Yeah.
It's just, it could become a bit challenging. And again, that has not happened. I want to be abundantly clear,
Right.
that has not happened, but now
Right.
we're looking forward. We've gone with all the fixes, now we're looking at, okay, what does the future offer, so.
Well, we did have one submission that was, I think, 6 questions, I believe.
That sounds about right.
3 pages. If I may, I could spend the next week talking to the clerks and Mr. Hackman.
Sure.
And just to make sure that we're all on the same page, that if we do get a public comment that's 12 pages long, what goes in the record, it meant them, definite maybe probably, Mr. Hackman, but with all due respect, there's probably not a black and white answer, but I think if the collective from staff's perspective could come back to you next week with a recommendation, if that would suffice, just to make sure we're all on the same.
Yeah, just again, this is the proper venue to have this conversation. Just again, openness, transparency. Just thought this was the right time and place to have this conversation. But yeah, if you want to follow up with legal and the clerks to make sure that it's all according to Hoyle, as they say. Hopefully I'm saying that right.
Well, again, the board could
Sure,
limit the
discretion.
time frame. Someone, if they're physically present, they go up, ma'am or sir, you're limited to 2 minutes. You can do things like that. Again, it's the board's call on how you want to conduct the meeting with regard
Fair
to
enough. And
public comment.
And historically, we've given a great deal of discretion and latitude. We really haven't had anybody abuse it.
Except the sheriff.
Yeah, those one-word answers, they can be. Oh my.
Mr. President,
Sir.
I certainly support the idea of the staff giving us a recommendation and continuing to weigh what's best. It does strike me, though, that unless or until we were overwhelmed with public comments, you always try to err in favor of giving the resident the platform, and maybe it doesn't make sense to read everything word for word, but I mean, if someone submits a question, is the jail open for tours? I really think it would be counterproductive to just put it in the record, not answer the question, not address it. Now, it might not make sense to go through the difficulty of reading through 30 paragraphs if they then included a report from an institution that they wanted read in the record. I completely understand that, but I think we want to be pragmatic. If we get 100 public comments, we are never legally required to read them in the record or discuss them. I just think that whatever policy we have should include some common sense, because if we don't answer the question, that doesn't serve the resident. They're probably eventually going to keep submitting it or come in person. And I just want to make sure that we're being as responsive as we can be. I always tell my students, the beginning of the semester, I'm a D-list celebrity. I'm Betty White. I can give you an infinite amount of time. We can have a 3-hour discussion after every class. But at the end of the semester, I'm Kanye West. I'm an A-list celebrity. I have almost no time because everyone wants to talk the day before the final exam. And as long as we're D-list, as long as we're getting 1 or 2 questions as we have been, it seems like it's pretty easy to address them. Now, if we get 100, 200, 300 questions, I'm grateful that we have the discretion to change the policy. But to the extent that it stays 1 or 2 or 3, even if we don't read off the name of the person or word for word recite what they say, I just want to make sure we're being responsive.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks.
Commissioner Young was talking about. No, go ahead if you want to. We were talking about having.
Well, all right.
You get to
I
be
was
the
just
guy that reads story
thinking,
time.
we may get, the one question, which shouldn't dictate total policy, but nonetheless, we had the one sort of outline question, which was 6 questions and 3 or 4 pages. But, which isn't evil, there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
People can do that if they choose. But it's difficult to enter all those kind of things into the record on a continual basis. We could possibly just leave it up to the county administrator to ask what questions seem pertinent and meaningful, that seem appropriate, if you will, for our meetings. just be your call, is in reference to what you think is appropriate to ask us.
My only reservation is that if I miss one and my judgment isn't as proper as yours, and then next week, I'm happy to do that, and I think 99.9% of the time they're all warranted, and so let me think about that. And nonetheless, I think they will all be entered into the record one way or another. But yeah, I see where you're coming from, and I can think of maybe one in my 8 or 9 years that I'm like, the applicability of said topic, but it is public and it is a comment, so in the truest sense of the word, we should honor that.
So, Mr. President,
Sir.
maybe the question should go to the president, and you should determine how to summarize them.
That would be problematic if a communication comes in during the meeting, and something else that's reasonable, say we have a shut-in or someone with limited mobility who physically can't make it to our meetings, there may be actual merit associated with keeping things open, but some degree of discretion. I'm looking to legal on this. I don't want to interchange custom and policy. We have a custom of how we conduct. We just don't have a written policy per se, because that distinction could sneak up and bite us someday of, well, we need your policy on.
Well, Mr. I would echo Commissioner Pletching's comment with regard to common sense. I think common sense weighs heavily in issues like this. The board has traditionally, customarily had public comment and no hard and fast four-corner rules. Again, it's completely discretionary for the board, but the law also favors openness.
So to that point, since we do have public participation and we want to be sensitive to our community, there might be some merit in taking them in. Obviously, we might miss something. It's possible that something may not come through to Jason's computer, which I know you're making a good faith effort to monitor that, but if for some reason something gets stuck in the queue and it doesn't make it to you.
We had an example of that with Ms. Chamberlain actually a number of months ago. I just quite frankly missed it, and I emailed her and said it is in the record, and I believe I entered it verbally into the record the following week. So
yes, I heard it well. And she was a good sport about it. We
Correct.
got her the answer. And on the topic of answers, I also don't want to set a standard of performance that if a question is asked, an expectation is an instant answer. We were fortunate that today the sheriff is in attendance, so he was able to actually answer that question. I just want to manage expectations that if a question is asked, we may need to put some effort into putting a responsible answer back. I think that's something that we should have as part of this conversation also. Okay, so we just kind of leave things alone for right now, and case by case, and if something seems a bit burdensome or a little clunky, or we start getting into repetitive or redundant questions or emails, again, as legal said, a case by case basis, we'll just deal with it if and when it happens.
Okay.
That sounds like we've got a plan, and obviously everybody's going to talk to sort through these nuts and bolts just in case. So, okay. Well,
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
all right, so I can check that part of new business off. Jason, thank you.
Thank you.
The other, well, maybe you might want to stay there. The other one, again, we talked about the health district and funding. Jason, you made a good point that eligible funding, and there is an immediate need, and I don't think there's any dispute that this would be a qualifying expenditure. I would also add that it's always the last bits of any project that are the ones that are the most resource intensive. I would throw out there, though, that the health district is also getting back to their normal workload in addition to their COVID response and their preparations for what happens this fall. There's all these steps that they're going to have to take. So they've got some challenges before them as well. Jason, did you want to?
Yeah, I agree with everything you've said. The visiting nurse program, and if that ceases to exist, because the vaccination process is going to continue for a while, and who knows when you're going to have the booster. I'm not a medical expert by any means, so I think this is going to be a sustained pattern of potential staff need there, and should the commissioners desire, I have no doubt that those are eligible uses within both the previous CARES Act and the current ARP plan. As we've talked about collectively, we're going to assist with some of our dollars in the vaccination process that occurred, I'll call phase one. Some of our larger clinics with first responders, road departments, county staff, and so on. Once again, an eligible use, immediate response to the COVID vaccination process, and this fits clearly, as you like to say, it checks those boxes. We've all looked at the guidance, and there's a couple of things that are pretty clear. This is one, getting the county back open for business with hospitality, entertainment, tourism. That's open. I wish the rest of it was as open as we had hoped, and we'll continue to pursue widening those guardrails. The final guidance isn't due until July, as you guys know, but those couple items I think we could assist should you wish, pretty quick.
And Commissioner Pleshnik touched upon it. The health district is actually going out to employers. I believe they try to get groups of about 10 together. Again, this policy is try to waste no vaccines. It's going to happen now that we're getting into these shorter numbers of people. There's going to be waste, but 10 is a good number because of the typical doses that they have to work with. So there's a concerted effort there.
The walk-in clinics that's pretty much every week at the health district off of Heisley Road. There's plenty of opportunity. Not only the folks that are homebound, the mobile clinic, I believe, is going to be at the Willoughby Farmers Market here coming up. So they're doing a really nice job. I know I've seen it in Paynesville a few times, but that takes staff to continue those efforts. So.
And might as well throw into the mix one of the discussions, the authorization for 12-year-olds and up. Mm-hmm. That happened right at the tail end of school, so we don't have the schools available to us as a congregate location to be able to do those large-scale vaccinations. So there's some tailoring to communities, literally getting down to the neighborhood scale and down to individuals, which is where the walk-in clinics are so important. But again, they do have their routine tasks that they have to attend to. We just were out at Prairie Nuclear Power Plant just the other day. We were invited out to take a look at their facility and some strategies, and that was one of the things that they were so appreciative of our health district taking care of their staff, as an example. So there's a lot of moving parts, and we can't keep asking our EMS and paramedics to continue to perform in ways that aren't meant to be sustained.
Right.
So again, as a board, we need to be prepared to move on this sooner rather than later. I know there's a number of other things, particularly economic development, some of the other guidance that we're waiting for, but this one's kind of clear. I've been working with Adam Litke, their budget finance fellow, and Ron Graham, getting some suggested budgetary numbers together. I'd like to bring that forward to the board for review and consideration. As long as you're okay with that, we'll keep pursuing that so that we know exactly what it is we're talking about. Maybe get into a little more detail at our next meeting, perhaps, if that's acceptable. Jason, you okay with that?
Perfect.
Gentlemen? Okay, so it shall
If I decide to read it in the record.
The whole thing?
I'm kidding.
Be sure to get their email address.
Right.
Yeah, and where to send the check to. And,
Mr. President?
And cash is not an option. Yes, sir.
I'd like to follow on your comment about our visit to Perry Nuclear Power Plant. I do think it's worth giving the update to the public that we were informed by the senior leadership team that they've spent the past year working on their application to extend their federal operating license. They currently are under their first 40-year license, which ends in 2026. But they're applying for a 20-year extension, which would continue the operation of the plant from 2026 to 2046. They informed us and they said we were welcome to share it with the public that they are not just cautiously optimistic, they are optimistic that they will receive a favorable determination and renewal. And they anticipate getting that determination in 2025. So they're continuing to work on the application. It looks like they are optimistic about the long-term continuance of the plant. I know that a lot of people in this room have worked very hard for that. So I think it's very good news. I do remember when Commissioner, I believe then State Rep Ron Young hosted, I think, the biggest rally in support of the plant at Perry High School. I remember taking a picture of you while you were interviewing with the news. That was a big part of getting the public support to keep the plant open, and it appears that your work has borne fruit because they're applying for a 20-year license, and as they shared with us, that is not a cheap or an easy process. It's a major investment, which is not one you would make if you were planning on closing tomorrow.
Well said. Thank you. Okay, any other new business to come before the board? Okay, moving on to our second public comment. Anyone in the audience wishing to address this board? Okay, no takers. And Jason Boyd, County Administrator, any electronic submissions?
No.
Indicating none. Thank you, sir. We do have a request for executive session. The purposes are personnel collective bargaining and personnel employment. There will be no business to be taken afterwards. Do we have a motion to adjourn for the stated purposes?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck?
Yes. Thank you for joining us today.